to. I'm going to mute myself for a bit here. Joseph, I'll let you start us off and really just introduce yourself, talk about what you're involved with on campus, who you are, and all that you bring to the table.
Okay, hi, my name is Joseph Adeboyega. I'm a junior from Pawtucket, Rhode Island, a marketing and finance double major. On campus, I'm involved in a few admissions office kind of projects, some diversity recruiting, diversity initiatives on campus, some diversity task force, and spent some time in and around BMSA. My freshman year, I was on the marketing committee for the board, and my sophomore year, I was the treasurer as part of the exec board for the African American Society.
Awesome, thank you.
Hi, everybody. Hi, my name is Jolson Rodriguez. I'm a current senior at PC. Sorry, my camera's off. I'm waiting for my laptop to charge, and then I'll get it on the camera. But yeah, so I'm a senior at PC. I'm a public community service and global studies double major. I am the current vice president of BMSA, so we can talk more about what that means and all the clubs that fall under BMSA. I also did Shepherd for about 2 years. I was on exec. Shepherd is the only LGBTQ+ organization / student club on campus, so that's an amazing time. And yeah, I've also been involved in like orientation, RA, resident assistant, stuff like that. So yeah, thank you for having me today.
Absolutely thrilled to have both of you. I think you will both provide a wealth of information, and don't worry, Jocelyn, welcome to the virtual world. Everything is fully through Zoom, so always waiting for that laptop to stay charged. But Joseph, I'll have you kind of take a couple of the first few questions, if you don't mind, just so that we can see you right now. But really just talking about getting involved on campus. You mentioned a few clubs that you've been a part of. How easy is it to get involved on campus? And if you don't mind talking about that process, the involvement there, all of that sort of thing.
Yeah, sure. It's not too difficult to get involved on campus. I think if anything, the challenge is just finding what it is you want to do, and like just kind of understanding what your interests are, and then maybe narrowing it down so that your extracurricular involvement doesn't overtake your academic responsibilities. So at the beginning of the year, right after orientation, is the involvement fair, and it's held on a Sunday. Prior to COVID, without the virtual aspect, it's in the rec center in Peterson Center. So they take over the recreational basketball courts and all the different clubs that are part of BMSA, the clubs outside of it, kind of like, for example, Congress, Friars Club, BOP, I know there's the Entrepreneurship Society, Step Team, the Motherland Dance Group. They all kind of like have their exec boards represent the club or association with a table and kind of like a trifold board or a poster, just kind of like highlighting what the club is about, what they do, what they've done recently, who some of their members are, and just to get kind of like your juices flowing for the club and gauge your interest in it. And they usually take down all students' email addresses who go. And so whether it's meetings or practices or applications, you'll probably find out about all of that through your PC email from that club, and it'll be sent to all club members. So that makes it pretty easy to get involved like right off the bat during your fall semester. And then again in the spring semester, there's like a spring involvement fair that kind of just reiterates on some of the clubs you may have met during the fall and didn't have the time for, or the ones you didn't think you'd be interested in and like heard about, like fellow students' experiences with during the fall and figured you want to give it a shot in the spring. So it's pretty easy. I think just that whole part of going from table to table, like a college fair, but for the clubs on campus. And so if you think of all the emails you got from college fairs, imagine that, but with clubs on campus. So they're all coming to your PC email and you don't even know who to answer or how to answer. My only tip would be don't respond to the club emails, because then you'll be that one person who hit the reply all.
I think that might be the best tip in a lot of different avenues, whether it's class or club involvement. But I think you put it perfectly. It is just like that college fair that albeit we didn't really have that much this year, but I think most students have experienced that in some capacity. You sign up for way too many things and realize there's only 24 hours in the day. So I think that that first involvement fair can be a little overwhelming, but in a very exciting and fun sort of way. The college itself has over 120 different clubs to choose from, everything from what Joseph talked about, student congress to our board of programmers, to Gaelic Society, to the radio station, to Afro-Am, to I'm gonna make Joseph talk about the fashion show that he's been a part of before. There's the smile. And really just find what's going to be your passion throughout your 4 years. Try a bunch of new things, stuff you did in high school and stuff you want to try out with. But because you brought up Motherland, Joseph, one of my favorite events when I was a student and even now as an alum and employee falls under Late Night Madness and all of the dance organizations that come along with that. Do you mind sharing a little bit about what that night looks like?
Yeah, Late Night Madness is just madness, if you want to use the exact term. But no, it's the event that kicks off our basketball season or winter sports season. And a lot of different schools have them around the country. Like I know when I was going through the college admissions process, I knew of like Kansas University's like Late Night at the Five, University, like all the big time schools, like you see they're kind of like pep rally essentially, like it's your high school pep rally, but a lot bigger, a lot better, and probably later in the day than anybody's pep rally in high school. But it has introductions to the men's and women's basketball teams. It has performances by special guests. The last one we had, which was the fall of 2019, had John Legend and A Boogie featured, which was dope. I remember wondering, like we were all kind of wondering, like how was the mix? Because like John Legend is one sound and A Boogie's a completely different sound, but it worked. Hearing them back to back was a dope experience. And then, like Liz mentioned, there's all the different clubs and dance teams that kind of perform that night as well. So there's the PC cheer team, the PC dance team, like those official teams, and then like Irish Step Club, the Motherland Dance Group, the Step Team, and I want to say there's one more like PC Dance Company or something like that. But all of those clubs just kind of show you like a number of different dances, and you just get to see a lot. Like you see a lot of dances that you might have never seen or that might inspire you to want to join the club. And like a lot of my friends were part of Motherland and are part of Motherland that were part of that, and it was just you're sitting there cheering for your friends. Most people think like a Late Night Madness is just about the student athletes, but no, like during that moment you're cheering for your friends that are on all the different teams, like dance clubs and organizations as well.
Absolutely. I will never not be upset that I had a college fair that day and couldn't come see John Legend. I'm okay without A Boogie, but I'm a little old at this point. So the year before that was Lil Uzi Vert, and always have a fun big name. Shaquille O'Neal as DJ Diesel came one year too, so that was a good time. But one of the spaces that I think is really dedicated to a lot of our organizations that fall under BMSA, definitely within Slavin, but even more so within the center at Moore Hall. Do either of you mind talking about what that building means on our campus and the transformations that have really come along with it? There you are. Hi.
Yeah, sorry, do you mind repeating the question just because I just logged on, so I was able
Not
to
a problem, you're good. Just asking about the center at Moore Hall and the transformations it's gone through and how BMSA utilizes, but then also student center wise and all of that sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So Moore Hall is a really important space on campus, not only just for students, but especially for our students who are of marginalized identities. BMSA does have a lot of cultural clubs. I mean, we do stand for Board of Multicultural Student Affairs. So with that said, we have so many different clubs such as Afro-American Society, Asian American Society, Latin American Society, the list can go. And so with that said, a lot of our clubs partner with Moore Hall to host their events, host meetings and stuff. Moore Hall's a really important space just because it might be known like informally as the multicultural center on campus. But like I said, it's definitely an important space. Students are anybody can really actually host an event there. They just have to get some sort of approval. The director, who I can't remember who it is at the time. I'm also remote, so it makes it a little challenging just because I wasn't able to meet everyone this year. The director there, I know for a fact, is just super friendly with the students and definitely wants to just even host events, definitely wants to cooperate with the students and just get those events going and stuff like that. So it's definitely an important space. So keep in mind of Moore Hall, especially when you're studying or just want to, find something to do on campus.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Joseph.
Yeah, for when we miss Jolson on campus, but that's what COVID has done is he's remote and I'm here on campus. But yes, like you mentioned, the director at the Center for, I believe there's like a long official name to Moore Hall, but we all just kind of know it as Moore or Moore Hall. And that director, he's really cool. I don't know if he's a local, but I know like just recently they also kind of partnered with the Glow Cafe, which is actually owned by one of the assistant coaches for the women's team, and kind of offer some smoothie bowls and smoothies for students last Friday afternoon, I want to say. So that was just kind of like a good, like fresh pick me up from there. But in addition to that, like Joseph said, there are events, but it also can be just a study space. And like this semester has been a pretty popular place just for not necessarily popular, but a pretty common place to see someone doing like Zoom meetings like these, or their classes on Zoom, or their office hours, or whatever the case may be. And inside Moore, there's classrooms, and then there's one open space, and the open space usually houses the events that Joseph was mentioning, that clubs like Afro-Am, OLAS, Asian-Am. I don't know if Circo really uses it, but I don't know if Shepherd really used it as much. I can't remember that, but those are places that are open for any club to really use. And I remember it was a place that when I was on the exec board for Afro-Am, we used a lot, like any kind of event we were thinking of, let's just use more. The NAACP on campus, they also use it pretty frequently. And then this semester has also been used as a classroom, like that big open space, in addition to the other two classrooms. So those two classrooms, thinking of courses like Black Studies, PSP, any of those classes that kind of fall under that umbrella of social sciences are typically held in Moore, or I believe should always be held in Moore, honestly.
Thank you both for that honest answer, and gives such a great interpretation. I've loved seeing that building transform over my past 10 years on campus in so many special ways. It's also great because it's at the center of our campus and kind of just filters in its own way across all of our students. One thing that you both mentioned, free food is always going to draw students to any building on campus. So that's always something to keep your ear open for. Where's the free food and where can I go hang out now? But Jolson, because you are that VP of BMSA, do you mind really giving that full rundown of the organization, how it has its own exec board, but then has all of the clubs within it, really just describing that for our students?
Absolutely. So I like to describe BMSA as sort of like the umbrella club for all the multicultural center or multicultural clubs on campus. So it has, I say it's between 17 to 19 clubs because it does, usually flex every semester. It'll be maybe a club joins VMSA, a club decides to take a little break and kind of focus on their own memberships. But I mean, we have clubs across all different types of things. We have Circo, so the Italian Society. We have Gaelic Society. We do involve Motherland Dance Group. So with the definition of culture, it's very open. It's not just one type of thing. Culture can be from any form, whether it's dance or some sort of art interpretation. We have Portuguese, a Lions Club. Like, just think of it. We probably have it. I mean, they're all student run too, so it's really exciting, and it's not difficult at all to create a club to fall under BMSA. I know this semester we're actually working on reviving the Middle Eastern Student Society, or Student Association, sorry. So it's the acronym is MESA, and we're really excited about that. So they'll probably be starting up again in the fall. But to join BMSA, the reality is most sophomores are able to join just because you have to be on an exec board for your club in order to be under the club of BMSA. So let's say, for example, you're on an exec board for, let's say, Asian American Society. And so if you're there for a year, which usually happens after your freshman year, you're eligible to join BMSA you're just kind of like automatically inducted, I'll say, like being in your sophomore year, and you can continue on throughout the rest of the years at PC. And if you're not a part of any sort of club, we do have committees. So you are more than welcome to apply for those as well. We have, I believe, 4 different types of committees. We have outreach, we have events committee, marketing, and I think that might be it. Hold on, yeah, we have 3. So they're really exciting, and those committees are amazing. They do a lot of work for BMSA as a whole entire organization, and it's really exciting stuff. So I think that's pretty much the rundown of BMSA, if that makes any sort of sense. We do represent, like, we emphasize family a lot in the club. Everyone is a family within BMSA, and PC technically has, I want to say that informally, it's not formal at all, but it's informally known as like the Big Five or whatever. Reality is, it's just huge organizations and clubs on campus. So that involves Student Congress, Friars Club, BMSA, the Cowl, and campus ministry. So any of those big clubs, they just have so many members in them. So that's why they call it the Big Five. There's no other significance to it, I promise. It's just the membership involvement. But with that said, BMSA is one of them. And like we said, I think this semester we have about 70 plus members. I know last semester we had 100 plus. So it's a family that keeps on growing and growing and growing. And yeah, so we're excited. We do a lot of events. Like I said, we emphasize family. So once you're in BMSA, you can't forget us now.
Absolutely. Cheese Fest was always one of my favorite events that came up throughout the years. As simple as it sounds, cheese from around the world, you can't go wrong. But I appreciate you giving the rundown of how the umbrella organization that it is really does work. And I had the fortune of attending one of your meetings last year before everything kind of shifted on us. And just hearing from different groups on campus and having Student Congress still there and that collaboration amongst organizations, I think is so great. And I love that you just brought up that it's being a sophomore, it's getting involved at that leadership level right away. I think the college does a great job of, even in some cases, freshmen have that empowering voice on our campus. So thank you for bringing that up. Because you are remote and you have said that already, do you mind just talking about how you've stayed involved and how you're still connected to the college despite choosing to stay home?
Yeah, absolutely. So it took a while for me to really just adjust to being remote, as with everyone else we all are going through it. I know just because it is my senior year, so I'm just like, I unfortunately had to miss a good important year at PC, but the reality is, like, I've learned to adjust being home. And with that said, my clubs and any involvement that I am involved with, they've adjusted with me as well. So it's been a partnership. I know with BMSA, I mean, being on exec, it is a lot of work, as in we're not managing, but we are, like, working behind the scenes with 17 plus clubs, making sure that they're succeeding this semester and these 2 past semesters, because remote happens with all of us. And I mean, so there's no expertise anywhere. Like, we're all struggling together. So it's kind of like it's a weirdly nice thing. But with that said, it's not been too bad. I cannot lie. I think really communication has been the most important aspect about these being on any kind of exec board. I know, Joseph, you can definitely vouch for that. It's just all about communication. So if you are having, a tough week where it's like, being on Zoom too much, or work assignments are getting too much, your exec board is there for you. You all, I like to think of my exec board as siblings. Like, we have our battles, but we also love each other at the end of the day. I mean, we might not see every single same page, but at the end of the day, we're in the same book, right? So it's stuff like that. It's not been too bad. Like I said, I'm actually just really surprised with how smooth the adjustment was for being remote. Professors, faculty, staff, students, they're definitely open to just making sure you're doing well. And obviously everyone has their own reasoning for being remote. I decided just because I had my own personal things, but at the end of the day, do I feel like I'm missing out? Not really so much, because PC and Student Activities Office has adjusted to having all these like remote sessions. I'm a huge fan of bingo, and I know that you can get a lot of good prizes with bingo. That's still happening, and it's still remote. So it's like PC really does try to like emphasize this whole remote world and making sure that they're uniting everyone. I know all the students just received a sweater and a hat, winter hat from Nike. So it's a pretty good brand, right? Like, we got good sweaters, good hats. Remote students got them as well. So I was excited about that. yeah, I don't know. I wish I had more to say. I know my story might be a little different than others. Some others might not be so similar just because it's a world we're all trying to navigate right now. But other than that, like speaking of just like clubs and student activities, it's definitely been like, as long as you want to get involved, you absolutely can. And it's as easy as that.
That's perfect. Thank you. Joseph, do you mind countering that with what your life has been like on campus?
Well, I mean, because like if you can just put Jolson's experience and put it experiencing it from a dorm on campus, that's kind of what it's been. Because like Jolson's exec, I think at one point was about half on campus. I think it still is kind of half on campus, half remote for his BMSA exec. Other execs on campus are kind of navigating those same challenges. And all the clubs are navigating those same challenges. So yeah, I think when it comes to like student activities and campus involvement and all the different extracurriculars, we're all just kind of trying to follow the mold that the school is kind of set out to begin with for how we're doing classes. So the same way that all courses are kind of being offered on either a fully remote or hybrid sort of style, is kind of the same way that clubs are following along with that and offering events that both people that are on campus and people that are remote in their homes can both join in on as well. For example, like I'm part of the Horizons mentoring program for our first gen and students of color. And we recently tried to have like a makeshift retreat. It wasn't the same one that we normally have, but it was something just to get people together. And it was a lot of reliance on Zoom, even for the people that were in person. We kind of split the whole kind of mentoring group into pods, and then had a Zoom open on all of those. So we felt like interconnected, but also the people who were at home for the semester or for the year and weren't able to actually be in person could also benefit from it as well, as long as they unmuted and had their video on, so you feel like you're there. So overall, it's been kind of the same, because just due to the restrictions and the changing landscape of COVID within the state and nationwide and globally, it's just been tough to actually have events in person the same way they normally are. And if they are in person, they probably have a limit anyway. So if you don't register early enough, you might have to suck it up and attend the event on Zoom. So it's been much of the same. The only difference is Josephn's home with his family, and I'm on campus with my friends. So, but everybody's a FaceTime or now a Zoom call away. I don't know how much longer we'll be Zoom calling though.
I never expected to learn Zoom as well as I have since the past, we're going on 13 months now. Great new skill that we've all learned. And Joseph, don't sell yourself short. Your family's not too far away. One of my favorite questions to always ask students, and Joseph, you've gotten this from me before. What's your favorite restaurant in the city of Providence?
I'm just gonna throw out there that Thayer Street is very popular. So I went through a phase where all I was eating was Antonio's Pizza, and they kind of have like the large style slices. Then I shifted from Antonio's to Baja's for a quick second, which was like, I believe it's a Mexican spot, if I'm not mistaken. And then bounced right from Baja's to Chinatown that I was on for a long time. And now I'm hearing that Caliente, which is another Mexican spot on Thayer, is the way to go. And I usually couple whatever meal I get on Thayer with the smoothie from Tropical Smoothie. So there's a lot to get out there. It's just kind of like a strip kind of around downtown Providence. And then on top of that, there's Thayer Street, and then there's also Federal Hill, which is like I would call Thayer Street more like the fast food or the fast casual restaurants, whereas like Federal Hill is like you want to get some friends or your family when they come into town and get dressed up a little bit, and go to like an actual restaurant. That's usually the Federal Hill. I guess my favorite restaurant that I've been to in that area was Blend, that now goes by the name Terra Luna. That's like Colombian food, I believe. So those are a few of my favorite spots around town.
Yeah, I I could not agree more. I know Thayer Street definitely, like as Joseph said, it is a street full of food. They have every kind of food you can imagine, from Indian to Middle Eastern to almost like 3 different types of Mexican restaurants. Like it's so delicious. Yeah, Thayer Street's always popping. But I know Federal Hill, I haven't experienced Federal Hill too much. I kind of regret it. To me, I'm from Boston, so if y'all are from Massachusetts, it's literally like the North End, but on one street. So it's a little Italy. So there's a ton of like just delicious Italian restaurants. For me, I mean, I'm Dominican, and there are some really great restaurants on Broad Street. If you do want to venture out into Providence, which please, if you go to PC, Providence is in the name of the college. Please explore the city that the school is located in. It's one of my favorite cities of all time. I'm from Mass, like I said, but I love it so much. I'm even thinking about considering like moving back post grad. So great place. Definitely take advantage of the city as much as you can. I cannot emphasize that enough. But yeah, Broad Street, definitely a lot of great Caribbean style restaurants. I know I love Peruvian food. I just got into it in college. I don't know why. So Los Andes, and then there's also Machu Picchu, which is right next to the school. Delicious food. Like you can get so much food for a good 10, 15 bucks. Same with Chinatown. Chinatown piles that food plate. You have food for at least 3 or 4 days after. But yeah, those are my favorite. I know there's if you like cafes, there's so many different cafes in Providence. I'm a huge coffee person, so I think me and my friends one time tried to make a plan to go to a different cafe every weekend. And I mean, it's been, I don't know how many weekends, and we still haven't finished all of them. So definitely try to take advantage of that. It's just a great place. I think I saw that Providence is like one of the food capitals of the country. So like I said, you are in the right space if you like food.
Absolutely. Thank you both. And now I have some new recommendations to go check out too. We are one of the creative capitals of the country. And then on top of that, one of, in my opinion, best food spots across the entire country, but also recognized by different media outlets too. So great place to go check out a lot of different local places. We're a very big kind of mom and pop sort of spot. You're not going to get the big chains. Sure, yes, you can, but it's not who we're built off of. So I always think it's really important to go explore the city of Providence too, as best that you can. To our admitted students, continue to send questions along. It's really important to have your voice heard in what our current students have to say too. But I do think that as we talk about different cultural clubs on campus, especially falling under BMSA, just hearing both of your voices talk about how diverse campus is and what it's like to attend Providence College.
Yeah, so I know, so fun little fact, I am a transfer student. I always just like to mention it. I'm sure everyone gets annoyed with it. But I did transfer to PC my sophomore year. And so that transition, I did come from UMass Global, which is a huge state school. I think the population is like 23,000 students. So going from 23K to only 4,000 students, honestly, I love small school vibes. Like I know I personally thrive in a smaller environment. So PC was definitely the right choice for me. And getting involved and stuff, it was not difficult. I know Joseph mentioned the involvement fair earlier, and that's what it was for me. As soon as I showed up, signed my name put my email and name on a couple of lists, I started making friends off the bat. I am more of an extrovert too, but that does not mean introverts cannot thrive. Trust me, I see you, we hear you. There are so many things to do that doesn't involve social life. Like we're just talking to people, I promise. But I guess PC, and when it comes to just like diversity and meeting other people and stuff, we have clubs, like I said, as we're all talking about here, that are run by students, and the majority of us in cultural clubs represent those clubs. That doesn't mean you have to align, your identity has to align with the club in order to join. I mean, for Shepherd, I like to say we had more people who identified as straight than people who identified within the LGBTQ plus community, because they wanted to come to learn about allyship and learn the vocabulary and just learn about like queer life and learn about all these different kind of topics that we talk about all the time. So that's always a fun thing. We love to see that, and that's the same thing with other clubs too. Like you do not have to have come from an Asian background to join Asian AM, or come from a Latin American background to join OLAS. It's just all about like dipping your fingers in what interests you and gaining friends from that. If you're not gaining friends, then you're definitely gaining an experience, and I promise you, it's always going to be positive. So yeah, and I know there's a lot of programs that PC is definitely initiating now with that involve around diversity and such. The majority are student-led, but the school is definitely now getting more involved and putting more professional lens on there. So that's even more exciting for the work of diversity, equity, and inclusion. we're so excited. I don't know. It's just, there's a lot of good things coming up, and it's sad because it is my last year. So I don't get to be a part of those, but I know that my experience here has just been towards that stuff. So it's just to see, it's amazing to see how much we've grown for a while. So yeah.
When I speak about PC's diversity, I always speak from the viewpoint of a local student. So I've seen kind of what the campus was like and the perception of the campus when I was in elementary school, when I was in middle school, and like all we ever really knew around the state was the Friars basketball team. Not even so much about the Friars hockey team, even though they were always equally successful. So it has been like good to see just how far the college has come in terms of diversity. Obviously, like I only have my past 2.75 years, I guess, as a student on campus. So I don't necessarily know what it was like for clubs like a BMSA in say 2008 or 2014, but I know what it's been like so far. And among those clubs and among the students, that diversity is celebrated. Like Jolson mentioned, those clubs are safe spaces if you do identify as that, but they're also places to learn how to be an ally. Just want to learn more about it, period. And so there are people that identify as straight that have gone to Shepherd events. There are people who are Caucasian who have attended Afro events. There are people who are Black or Caribbean who have attended meetings for OLAS or events for those clubs. And then overall, it's just kind of like when those clubs do have meetings, it's a vibe. So you kind of, no one really wants to miss the vibe. So like events for OLAS may have people from all over the place and kind of in that sense. And then pretty much the like that big four, big five, big six, whatever you want to identify it as on campus. All you should know about that big whatever number is they're represented throughout Lower Slavin. So if and when you get here, you will see them. You will see their offices throughout Lower Slavin. Pretty much all of those clubs do have some type of diversity committee, some type of diversity outreach, just a way to kind of foster that diversity inclusiveness within their section of campus, as well as extend it to the greater community. And yeah, I think that would cover it all. It's just like if you get involved, if we're talking about the basis of this, which is getting involved, you will find a lot of diversity throughout, especially if you make your involvement diverse. So it could be a club here, an intramural team there, a committee here, whatever the case may be. So you can find your niche and then also step out of your niche as well.
Thank you so much both for the transparency and just honesty with those responses. Neither of you work for our office, so you're not paid employees to say anything. So I always appreciate just hearing the true, authentic PC's current student answer. And Joseph, I think you hit such an amazing point there at the end of diversifying your involvement is going to diversify your experience on campus. It's a really, really great way to put all of that. We do have a question that just came through. If you don't play any sports, is it hard to find clubs to join and to make friends?
That one brought a smile because, in all honesty, if you play a sport, it's probably harder to join clubs and make friends because your time is just spent with that team, with that in that sport that you play. I don't know if that was about varsity level sports or intramural sports, but I'll touch on all of them. So varsity level sports is kind of like a year-long commitment with that whatever sport you play. And intramurals, you can bounce around teams and like find a group to run an intramural game with. But in terms of the clubs that you'll see at the involvement fair, and either while the club teams may be more time consuming than the intramurals, but the intramurals, the different clubs and organizations, it's so easy to just meet a number of people. I mean, like my freshman year, I went to one Afro meeting, and next thing you know, I met a number of new upperclassmen, freshmen, sophomores, juniors, seniors, some grad students who came by that were on campus and came to those meetings. So like just going to those meetings or going to a few of those events will just introduce you to a number of new people on campus that you didn't know from either your residence hall or your classes. Like after hours is kind of a chance to meet a lot of new people.
Absolutely, thank you. That question may be coming from last night's Friartown Zoomed In was all about the athletic perspective intramural club and D1. So if that's where that question was coming from, then tonight is just another example of different clubs on campus. There's still everything else from the entrepreneurial society to the marketing association to the history club to esports to everything in between. I know that the cliche is always to say if it doesn't exist, you can create it. There's already 120. I'm sure there's going to be something, but even if not, yes, you can still create it. So there's going to be ways to find those little homes for yourself on campus, which I think is really great. Jolson, you don't know that I'm going to ask this one, but do you mind talking about the series that you helped with over the summer? Because I was listening into your session and thought it was absolutely wonderful and hope that you could share a little bit about that with our students too.
Yeah, absolutely. I will say, as you know, this is a little off track, but as a senior at PC, I know Joseph said, you know, if you want to diversify your needs, then you can go do that. You know, as me, like I said, as a transfer student coming in, I really hit the ground running, and so I really try to just take advantage of every opportunity possible. And I hope you all take something from that, and if you don't, that's really okay. Take what you want from what I'm saying, right? But I know for me, I definitely wanted to. I came in undeclared. I came in marketing. I just kept switching back and forth with different majors. I ended up being, you know, public and community service with global studies, completely almost opposite of what marketing is, but that's okay because I'm terrible at math. That's why I did the major a favor. But regardless, so over the summer, PC hosted a bunch of different types of series. I know the Institution of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion on campus decided to host a anti-racism summer series, which was absolutely successful. It was very needed, and it was just great positive feedback from the end. So I was able to partner with a professor from the sociology department, Dr. Christopher Chambers. He is an amazing person and he does a lot of his own personal research, but he decided to host an episode within the anti-racism series. And with that, I was able to, you know, I didn't do much, I promise. I really just asked him questions, but I mean, it was really cool to be a part of that experience. And then BMSA got to actually host our own episode, a part of the anti-racism series, where we talk about sort of, you know, student of color experience at PC or just a BIPOC experience being at PC. There are times where, you know, students of color, students of marginalized identity, you know, it's difficult navigating college life for a lot of people. And it's even more difficult navigating it depending on certain identities that you hold. There's so many different factors. So, you know, we're not going to dive into it, but the reality is this episode was needed and I'm glad we did it because we were able to basically raise the voices for those who kind of have been silent or might have sort of just kept it on the low. So that episode is really important. And I'm really glad that PC, especially IDEI, allowed us to do that because it's not that it's difficult, but it's a lot of work and it's a lot of it's almost putting us on an adult scale. Like I like to say that. I know we're all adults, but it puts us on a very mature scale. And so to do that took a lot, but it was really important. And at the end of the day, it ended up being very successful in my personal lives. So it was great. And with that said, I think opportunities such as those come all the time. It's just depending on how much you're looking for them, you know. If you're going to keep your doors shut, then it's going to be impossible for things to come through. But if you have an open mind coming to PC and you're not afraid to sign up for this club, talk to this person, send an email to this department, those are when opportunities begin. And I know I was able to kind of find that with my own personal research and being a part of the anti-racism summer series. So yeah, it not only is a great experience to gain, but it's a great thing to put on, you know, for those who want to think in those terms, it's great to put on your resume. It's great to be a person and bring that to grad school or bring that to a post-grad job. So yeah, it's overall great. I can't say anything bad about it.
Well, don't sell yourself short on the one with Dr. Chambers because I thought you did a wonderful job with it. And then the BMSA one was very inspirational too. And to our admitted students, if any of you answered our supplemental question about the DID wall, that diversity, inclusion, and democracy wall question that we had asked, a little bit of that came from that series over the summer. So Jolson, you didn't know, but you helped influence our common application of it. as we start to wrap up, students, again, if you have questions, feel free to send those through. But I'm going to ask the two of you just to shed a little bit of light and wisdom on our admitted students. We do have a mixture of those already in the class of 2025, yay, and those still making that final decision. What words of wisdom do you have for our students on the other side of the screen?
For anyone who has already committed, congrats. The rest of your senior year of high school is smooth sailing at this point. Take that breather before you start to get a number of emails from PC on your personal and Providence College email address. But for those of you who've already decided, you've kind of got over the decision making, and I hope you stick with that choice. So when you get here, I did forget to mention that I am an orientation leader. So maybe I will see you in June or the fall. And when I do see you, I do hope you bring your authentic self, your most open self, that's just ready to embrace PC, and it'll embrace you back. And then to get the most out of this experience, because my mom had told me when I was going to high school, and she told all my other siblings as well. And like, I tell it to people all the time, is like, the experience is what you make it. So just try to make it the best experience possible. And if you haven't committed yet, obviously we hope you do come here. And if it is anywhere else, that there is that message to be yourself and be open, but also just continue taking your time with the process. For me, like the answer just kind of clicked overnight, and you kind of can't ignore it when it clicks. So when it doesn't happen, trust your gut, and hope that you're right. And then that one common message is, yeah, just be open to change, be open to learning more about yourself, be open to challenges, and be open to just discovering a new world that exists outside of maybe the hometown you've grown up in your whole life, or where you spent the last 4 or so years for high school.
Yeah, absolutely. I cannot second that enough. That, yeah, definitely come being yourself. And I know when I was a senior in high school, I think one of the big reasons why I chose to go to college and just continue like pursuing higher education is just to sort of just continue growing. And at the time, if you asked senior Jolson, hey, why are you going to UMass Lowell right at the time? I was like, I just want to get a new place, start over. Like, I'm tired of high school, blah, 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 right? And I'm not going to lie, like, from, transitioning from UMass Lowell to PC, this is bad. I hope no one from, the North Shore Massachusetts area hears this, but I don't remember anybody from high school. That's as simple as that. I got to grow so much that I almost forgot where I came from, if that makes sense. And that's not a terrible thing. It really is not. I mean, I found myself so comfortable in Providence, and I continuously do. That's why, I truly, like I said, I'm thinking about living there post-grad. But at the end of the day, when you get to college, go for the right reasons. And, you can make mistakes. I made the mistake, or I wouldn't even say it's a mistake, but I learned a lesson. And that was, transitioning from one school to the other. You can do that. You can transfer schools. It's really okay. And the process is a little scary. I'm not going to lie, a little scary. You're literally reapplying to college again, but it's worth it. And I had a great experience with it. So at the end of the day, I'm going to second what Joseph said. Joseph said, be yourself, be your authentic self, but also, like he said, be open to grow, be open for new opportunities, because that's what comes. Definitely a person of attraction. So if you say it, it's going to come, right? But regardless, like I said, it's okay to make mistakes. It really is. That's the whole point of growing and learning. And PC will help you get there, I promise. So I hope you all come, and congratulations again. I hope you all have an in-person graduation. I know we will. I'm a little nervous. I'm not going to know how that's going to work out. We find out in a couple of weeks, but we're excited. We'll see how it goes.
Absolutely. Thank you both for those responses. I think they really are the best ways to answer that question of just regardless of where a student chooses to go, be your authentic self and let the school help you grow and continue to just become more authentic and a better person. We do have one question that kind of just came up a little bit, asking if we think COVID will settle down by the fall semester. I pray every day that that is going to be the case. My crystal ball is as good as anybody else's, but I am incredibly hopeful for the state of Rhode Island, for the country, and for the world that as things continue, more and more people will continue to get vaccinated. More and more people will continue to stay healthy and safe. We have put in a lot of measures this year to keep our campus community safe. Some students have chosen to stay home. Some students have chosen to come to campus, but classes remotely. A lot of options have been made available this year with the, by no means diminishing this current year, but what we put in place this year was with the intent of the future growth of our campus too. I'm clearly zooming in from my home right now. I'm not in my office, so different things have happened that all of that is with the intention of next fall semester will be fully in person. Absolutely, there will still be that safety factor in place of if you're not comfortable, different things like that. I don't have all of the perfect answers, but the goal is that everything that we've done this year and what will continue to happen over the summer is for our students to have everything in person as safe and as normal and regular as we did 5 years ago, kind of thing. So I don't think anything will go back to the absolute perfect what it was on March 5th of 2020, but the goal is to make everything as normal as possible. The second half of that was, would there be any people on remote learning? Again, the goal is no. The goal is to have everything in person in the fall. I say that, take it with a grain of salt though, because if your comfort level is that remote piece, conversations will continue to happen about that. But if you're asking from the, is everything going to be remote? That answer is no. So I look forward to meeting all of the students I did not get to meet at college fairs last fall. I will meet you on campus this fall. So hopefully that helps answer that question. If you have more, send them along. We will continue to answer any COVID related questions. I will put in a final plug for our admitted student program. It is a 2-week-long virtual adventure with 4 different live dates that go along with it, starting on April 19th, a full slate of academic programs. Every single major will be represented. Tuesday, you'll get to hear more from other student organizations on campus, the big 5 or 6, the school newspaper, the school radio station, all of our dance programs. So many different clubs will be represented that day. If there's any parents in the background, the 3rd day of that program on the 28th will be very kind of parent-centric of what to expect for your child moving forward, a little bit about what COVID will look like in the fall. And then that final day on the 29th, all of your questions, anything that hasn't been answered yet will get answered that day. So I hope to virtually see all of you there. But if you do have more questions in the meantime, feel free to reach out to your admission counselor or our 2 students. I know they are tremendous about helping any of our admitted students through this program or through this final decision process. So I want to thank you all. Thank you both for joining me tonight. Rhode Island and I'm sure Massachusetts had gorgeous weather this evening. So go outside, go enjoy a walk. But I hope to see all of you later this month. If you have questions, stay in touch. As always though, go Friars. Have a great night, everyone.
Bye everybody, thank you so much.